You probably think canned food is a safe, cheap, and convenient choice. But here's the shocking truth. Some cans are silent killers sitting right in your pantry. Hidden inside are sky-high sodium levels, toxic metals and chemicals that can quietly attack your heart, kidneys, and even your memory. For seniors over 65, the risk isn't small. One careless meal could push your blood pressure through the roof or even trigger a dangerous heart rhythm. And yet millions of people open these cans every single day without realizing the danger. Today I'm going to reveal the 7 canned foods you must avoid at all costs, and the truth will surprise you. But don't worry, I'll also show you 2 canned foods that are actually safe and can be real allies for your health. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments where are you watching from? I'd love to know where our community is growing. And if you care about your health and want more eye-opening tips like this, make sure to subscribe right now. Stay with me until the very end because the most shocking item on this list is still to come. Let's begin with the first can you should never trust. When you pop open a can of Vienna sausages, the smell hits you before the taste does. That sharp metallic scent, the soft pale links floating in gelatin, it feels like nostalgia for some, but for older adults, it's a hidden trap. Here's the shocking math. One small can can carry 700 to over 1,000 milligrams of sodium. That's almost 3/4 of the entire daily limit for anyone with high blood pressure. And let's be honest, who eats just half a can? Most people finish it all with crackers in one sitting. For younger folks, that might just mean feeling thirsty. But for someone in their 60s or 70s, especially if you're taking blood pressure pills or kidney medication, that sodium spike is like pulling the rug out from under your heart and kidneys. Blood pressure rises, fluid builds, and suddenly your medicine is fighting just to keep up. You might think reduced sodium versions are safer, but here's the catch: reduced only means 25% less salt than the original. So you're still looking at 700 milligrams or more per can? Not safe at all. Worse, many brands replace salt with potassium chloride. Sounds harmless. Not if you have kidney disease or take ACE inhibitors. In that case, too much potassium can trigger dangerous heart rhythm problems. And the risk doesn't stop there. Vienna sausages are a low-acid canned food. That means if the seal is imperfect, bacteria like Clostridium botulinum can grow inside, completely invisible, tasteless, and deadly. Remember the 2023 recall? Over 2 million pounds of canned meat, including Vienna sausages, were pulled due to packaging defects. Imagine eating something that could silently carry one of the world's most lethal toxins. Even when the can is sealed, you're not safe. Most cans are lined with plastic coatings, many with BPA or similar chemicals. In Europe, the safe exposure level was reduced to nearly zero, but in the US, regulators still haven't caught up. For seniors dealing with diabetes or hormone-sensitive cancers, that's not a small concern. Then come the preservatives. Nitrates are used to keep the sausages pink and to fight bacteria. But they also form nitrosamines, the same compounds that push the World Health Organization to classify processed meat as a known carcinogen. Add phosphate additives, which put extra stress on aging kidneys and arteries, and you're stacking risk upon risk. All of this comes in, you can finish in 5 minutes. So let me ask you, do you still think that little can is harmless? Or is it time to rethink your choices? If you agree, type yes in the comments. Because while Vienna sausages might seem convenient, they're really a concentrated package of salt, chemicals, and hidden dangers aimed straight at the weak spots of an older body. Now, if you thought that was concerning, wait until you see what's lurking in a can that smells like the ocean itself. Let's move on to canned tuna. When you crack open a can of tuna, the brine splashes, the fishy scent rises, and it feels safe, almost wholesome. After all, tuna was the budget-friendly protein that got many of us through college, tight paychecks, or quick lunches. But for seniors, that trust in the can is shakier than you think. Let's start with mercury, the heavy metal no one talks about enough. Light tuna, usually skipjack, has much less mercury than albacore white tuna, but the difference can be threefold. Why does that matter? Because mercury doesn't leave your body quickly. It builds up in your brain, kidneys, and nervous system over years. For someone over 65 already managing blood pressure medication or early kidney problems, that slow accumulation is a danger you'll never see until symptoms appear: memory fog, tremors, or fatigue. And mercury isn't the only problem. If tuna sits too long on the dock before processing, bacteria can transform histidine into histamine. Here's the kicker: histamine doesn't go away with cooking or canning. Eat that tuna melt, and an hour later, you might feel flushed, itchy, with a racing heart. Not an allergy, a type of poisoning. How many people would recognize those symptoms as coming from a simple sandwich? Then comes the silent killer, botulism. Rare, yes, but deadly. In 2025, dozens of tuna brands were recalled at major retailers like Costco and Trader Joe's because of easy open lids that could let Clostridium botulinum slip in. The terrifying part: botulinum toxin has no taste, no smell, no warning. One factory slip and your safe can become a sealed vial of paralysis. Even if the seal holds, there's the can itself. Many linings still contain BPA or its chemical cousins like BPS and BPF. Europe now says the safe daily intake for BPA is nearly zero. The FDA still unmoved. If you've survived prostate cancer, managed diabetes, or simply want to avoid hormone disruptors, those three little letters BPA shouldn't be ignored. And we haven't even touched sodium. A drained can of tuna in water can still carry 200+ milligrams of salt. Flavored or packed in oil versions, even higher. Reduced sodium, often replaced with potassium chloride, which can throw blood chemistry into chaos for anyone with kidney disease or on common heart medications. Look at the ingredient label closely: soy broth, pyrophosphates, stabilizers. All additives that pile extra stress on aging kidneys, stiff arteries, and medication-heavy lives. Yes, tuna does offer protein and omega-3s, but the path from ocean to can is littered with weak spots. Mercury that accumulates histamine that survives heat, botulism. If sealing fails, and chemicals regulators can't agree on. So let me ask you, do you still trust what's inside that silver can? Or does it feel more like a gamble now? If you think it's risky, comment the word tuna below. For many of us, canned soup feels like comfort in a bowl. It's quick, it's cheap, and it's perfect when you don't want to cook. But for older adults, that cozy can of chicken noodle or tomato soup can quietly deliver three hidden hazards: sky-high sodium, sneaky salt, substitutes, and risky chemicals in the lining. Let's start with what you can't see: botulism risk. Canned soups like cream of mushroom or beef stew are classified as low-acid foods. That means factories must process them at exact temperatures and pressures to kill dangerous spores. If they miss that mark, Clostridium botulinum can survive and grow inside the sealed can. Here's the scary part: you won't smell it, you won't taste it. That's why health agencies warn: if a can is bulging, leaking, or spurting, don't open it. Don't taste it, just throw it away. Would you ever risk tasting something that could be lethal in a single bite? Now, the sodium shock. Half a cup of condensed tomato soup can carry 480 milligrams of sodium. But who eats just half a cup? A typical bowl can push past 1 milligrams, almost your entire daily allowance if you're managing blood pressure. Chicken noodle and beef varieties are even worse, 600 to 900 milligrams per serving. Stack that with crackers or bread, and you're in dangerous territory fast. Reduced sodium versions, don't be fooled. By law, reduced only means 25% less than the original. So a can that used to have 900 milligrams now has around 675. Still far too high. Only labels that read low sodium, 140 milliliter or less, or very low sodium, 35 milliliter or less, really count. How often do you check that fine print before buying? Here's the twist: many companies replace salt with potassium chloride, now called potassium salt. Sounds healthier, right? But if your kidneys don't filter well, or you're on ACE inhibitors or ARBs, too much potassium can stop your heart. The National Kidney Foundation warns seniors clearly steer clear of these substitutes. And then comes the can itself. For decades, soup cans were lined with BPA-based epoxy. In 2024, the European Union banned BPA in food packaging after tightening safety levels. The FDA, however, still claims it's safe. BPA-free doesn't always mean safe either. It often just means replaced with other bisphenols like BPS or BPF, which can act the same way in the body. Additives bring more trouble. Cream-based soups often contain added starch and sugar. Stabilizers like phosphates stress kidneys and bones. And undeclared allergens sometimes trigger recalls, turning what should be comfort food into a hidden health hazard. So is canned soup really comfort, or is it a chemical cocktail in disguise? If you've ever relied on canned soup, type soup in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because while soup promises warmth and nostalgia, it often delivers salt, overload, chemical linings, and invisible risks. And if you thought soup was concerning, just wait until we open the next canned chili. At first glance, canned chili looks like the perfect solution. Beans, meat, spices, all packed and ready in minutes. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Chili is one of the riskiest canned foods on the shelf. The biggest danger, botulism. Because chili is a low-acid food, it needs extreme sterilization temperatures of 240 to 250 to get them under pressure to keep deadly spores from growing. If the factory doesn't get that process exactly right, the can can become an incubator for Clostridium botulinum. And here's the frightening part: you'll never smell and never taste it. Back in 2007, a major chili sauce plant underprocessed batches, leading to a nationwide recall, hospitalizations, and some of the most infamous cases of foodborne botulism in U.S. history. Would you ever imagine that something as simple as chili could hide such a lethal risk? But botulism isn't the only red flag. A single cup of canned chili with beans can pack nearly 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Finish the whole can, which many people do, and you've swallowed almost half your safe daily limit in one meal. The American Heart Association suggests adults with high blood pressure aim for no more than 1,500 milligrams a day. Do the math: one hearty bowl, and you're already halfway there before bread, soda, or anything else. And beware of reduced sodium versions. They often replace salt with potassium chloride, rebranded as potassium salt. For a healthy 25-year-old, maybe it's fine. But for seniors on ACE inhibitors, ARBs, or potassium-sparing diuretics, this hidden swap can push potassium to dangerous levels. Too much potassium in the blood, called hyperkalemia, can cause irregular heart rhythms without warning. Then come the additives. Ever wonder why the meat in canned chili stays springy and uniform? That's sodium phosphate at work. It locks in texture but delivers highly absorbable phosphorus, the very thing kidney specialists warn older adults to cut back on. Over time, excess phosphorus stresses your kidneys, stiffens arteries, and weakens bones. It's a slow-motion risk you don't feel until damage is already done. And let's not forget the can itself. Most brands still use epoxy linings that historically contain BPA. The FDA continues to say exposure levels are safe, but Europe slashed its limit to near zero and banned BPA in food packaging altogether. Even BPA-free doesn't guarantee safety. Often it just means swapped with other bisphenols like BPS, different letters, same hormone concerns. So here's the real picture. Canned chili isn't just chili. It's a mix of sodium, overload, hidden potassium, swaps, phosphate stressors, and risky linings wrapped around a low-acid stew that could become lethal if processing fails. A shortcut meal. Yes, but one that stacks the odds against your heart, kidneys, and nerves. Now let me ask, do you still feel safe trusting a can of chili? Or is it time to rethink that habit? If you're concerned, type chili in the comments. Because if chili in a can can turn into a chemical gamble, imagine what's hiding in something as sweet and innocent as canned fruit. At first glance, canned fruit looks wholesome. The peaches and pears shine in the syrup, almost nostalgic, reminding us of childhood desserts. But the truth is, once your spoon hits that syrup, you're not eating fruit anymore. You're eating sugar in disguise. 1 cup of fruit cocktail in heavy syrup delivers over 40 grams of sugar. That's 11 teaspoons dumped straight into your bloodstream before dinner even begins. Even light syrup isn't much better. It's still sugar water, just slightly thinner. For anyone over 60, that kind of sugar spike can be dangerous. Blood sugar swings aren't just uncomfortable. They interfere with medication, worsen blood pressure, and chip away at heart health. A study in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that adults getting 17 to 21% of calories from added sugar had nearly 40% higher risk of death from heart disease. Push sugar higher, and the risk almost triples. Now think about it. How often do we reach for canned peaches or fruit cups thinking it's healthy? And the can itself brings another layer of danger. Most tins are lined with epoxy that historically contained BPA. Europe already slashed its safe exposure limit to near zero and banned BPA outright in 2024. But in the US, the FDA hasn't moved. Even cans labeled BPA-free often test positive for other bisphenols like BPS or BPF. Would you ever expect your healthy fruit snack to come soaked in a chemical bath? Then there's the bright red cherry on top of fruit cocktail. For decades, it carried FD&C Red No. 3, a dye linked to cancer in animal studies. The FDA finally banned it in foods by 2027, but some brands still use it. That little cherry meant to look festive is actually a warning sign in plain sight. And if that weren't enough, recalls have shown even more hidden dangers. Just last year, canned pears were pulled from shelves after tests found unsafe levels of lead and cadmium. Another recall revealed glass shards inside fruit cups. Rare, yes, but proof that canned fruit isn't as harmless as it looks. So what can you do? Drain it, rinse it. Better yet, choose fruit canned in water or its own juice. Or head to the frozen aisle for a safer option: no syrup, no can lining, just fruit. Pair it with yogurt or nuts, and you've got the sweetness without the sugar shock. So let me ask, do you still believe canned fruit is a healthy choice? Or is it just dessert pretending to be fruit? If you agree it's risky, type fruit in the comments. Because if something as innocent as peaches can hide so many traps, wait until you see the truth about a so-called superfood in a canned spinach. Spinach has always been seen as a superfood. We think of strength, vitality, and Popeye's famous muscles. But when it comes in a can, the story shifts. Crack the lid and what spills out isn't crisp leafy greens. It's a soggy lump in brine carrying risks that add up quickly, especially past the age of 60. First, let's talk about heavy metals. Spinach is notorious for soaking up cadmium from the soil. That metal doesn't cook off and canning doesn't remove it. It stays locked inside, and over decades, cadmium builds in your kidneys and bones. Europe has strict weekly limits to protect kidney function. The World Health Organization warns that even small amounts matter because your body holds on to cadmium for 15 years at a time. So the question is, why gamble with a can? Then there's the salt shock. 1 cup of canned spinach can hit you with 700 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly a third of your entire day's limit gone in just a few forkfuls. Even no salt-added versions can sneak in 200 milligrams from natural sodium in processing. Think about that the next time your blood pressure monitor squeals at you. And here's a twist many don't realize. Some reduced sodium versions replace salt with potassium chloride. If your heart is strong, that might not matter. But if you have kidney disease or take ACE inhibitors, that added potassium can silently disrupt your heart rhythm. One wrong can, one wrong meal, and your heart pays the price. Spinach itself carries its own risks too. It's naturally high in oxalates, tiny crystals that can trigger kidney stones. Doctors list spinach among the very high oxalate foods to avoid if you've ever had stones. And let's not forget vitamin K. Canned spinach is loaded with it, and if you're on blood thinners like warfarin, too much or too little throws your medication balance off. How many seniors are juggling that delicate balance without realizing spinach could tip the scale? And the packaging doesn't help. Most cans are coated with epoxy linings. For decades, that meant BPA. The FDA still shrugs at current levels, but Europe banned BPA outright in food packaging. And BPA-free isn't the green light. It sounds like many are replaced with BPS or BPF chemicals with similar hormone concerns. Finally, let's not forget botulism. Low-acid foods like spinach are the classic danger zone. If the factory process fails even slightly, spores can survive. The CDC is clear: if a can is bulging, leaking, or dented, don't open it. Don't sniff it, don't taste it, toss it. So while spinach should be a superfood in a can, it becomes a bundle of cadmium, sodium oxalates, vitamin K landmines, and chemical linings. Let me ask you, would you still call that strength in a can or a compromise in disguise? If you see the risk, comment spinach below. For many people, canned pasta feels like comfort food. You pop the lid, smell the tomato sauce, meat and sweetness, it's childhood in a bowl. But beneath that nostalgia hides one of the most dangerous canned foods for seniors. The first red flag is ultra-processing. Canned pasta isn't just noodles and sauce, it's a factory formula designed to last years on a shelf. That means added starch thickeners, sugar to mask acidity, preservatives, and fats. Doctors link ultra-processed foods to higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, and even premature death. So here's the question: is one moment of comfort worth years shaved off your health? Now let's talk about sodium overload. 1 cup of canned ravioli carries about 740 milligrams of salt. Many cans climb over 300 milligrams. And realistically, who eats half a serving? Most people finish the entire can. For seniors on diuretics or ACE inhibitors, that's half or even all of your daily sodium limit in one sitting. Your heart and kidneys are left struggling to keep up. Think reduced sodium pasta is safer. Not always. Many swap salt for potassium chloride. For someone with kidney disease or taking certain blood pressure meds, that healthy swap can dangerously raise blood potassium levels. Hyperkalemia can silently trigger irregular heart rhythms. Would you ever expect that from a bowl of spaghetti? The can lining adds more risk. Acidic tomato sauce breaks down BPA from epoxy linings faster than other foods. Europe cut BPA safety limits by a factor of 20,000, citing effects on the immune system. The FDA hasn't followed. And even BPA-free isn't truly safe. Studies show replacements like BPS and BPF still leach into food and carry similar hormone risks. Imagine feeding that to your grandchildren thinking it's harmless. Additives make things worse. Corn syrup and sugar creep in to make the sauce sweeter. Phosphate additives keep meatballs tender, but overload kidneys already working overtime. Nitrites used in processed meats are known carcinogens linked to higher cancer risk. And hidden allergens like soy milk or sesame can turn dinner into an emergency room visit for the unlucky few. Even storage is a hazard. Leave a can of pasta in a hot garage and you're essentially cooking chemicals into your food. Open it and leave leftovers in the fridge inside the can, and you'll taste the metallic tang of the lining breaking down. The safe move. Transfer it to glass and eat within a couple of days, but how many people really do that? So here's the bottom line: canned pasta sells you the memory of a safe, easy meal. But what it really delivers is salt shocks, sugar bombs, chemical linings, and silent risks that only multiply as you age. Let me ask, do you still see canned pasta as comfort, or is it danger in disguise? If you agree it's risky, type pasta in the comments. Because while pasta cans hide the worst dangers, not every shelf-stable food is out to get you. In fact, there are 2 canned foods that can actually help your health, and the first one might surprise you. After hearing about all the dangers hidden in canned foods, you might think every can is a trap. But here's the good news. Canned beans are one of the few exceptions that can actually be safe and healthy if you know how to handle them. Let's start with safety. Yes, beans are a low-acid food, which normally means they could harbor spores like Clostridium botulinum. But here's the difference: when beans are canned, they're put through a pressure cooking process called retorting. This heats them to 240–250 degrees, a level that kills dangerous bacteria and makes the beans commercially sterile. Translation: if the can is intact, botulism is almost impossible. So the first safety step is simple: check the can. Flat lid, tight seams, you're good. Bulging, leaking, or dented near the seam, that's a red flag, don't risk it. Now let's address the main complaint: sodium. Yes, many canned beans come loaded with salt. But here's a trick that works in seconds. Pour them into a strainer and rinse under running water for 10–30 seconds. Studies show this can cut 1/3 to nearly half the sodium instantly. That's the difference between a salty gut bomb and a heart-friendly protein source. So let me ask you, do you usually rinse your beans, or do you eat them straight from the can? Comment beans if rinsing is already your habit. And the nutrition. This is where beans shine. Half a cup gives you 7–9 grams of protein and 6–9 grams of fiber, plus potassium, iron, and folate. That combination helps lower cholesterol, steady blood sugar, and feed the good bacteria in your gut. For seniors, that's a triple win for your heart, your digestion, and your energy levels. Compare that to cold-cut soft cheeses or deli salads that can carry listeria, a bacteria especially dangerous for older adults. Canned beans, by contrast, are sterilized and sealed, making them safer than many foods behind the deli counter. Isn't it ironic that the food we trust less in a can may actually be safer than something fresh from the fridge? Even the can lining has improved. Most major brands now use BPA-free or BPA-NI, not intentionally added linings. While regulators still argue about trace risks, storing cans in a cool pantry, not a hot garage, minimizes exposure even more. And let's not forget practicality. Beans are cheap, shelf-stable, and ready in minutes. Swap half the meat in a chili or stew for beans, and you'll cut saturated fat while boosting fiber. Yes, beans can cause gas, but even that is manageable. Start small, rinse well, and let your gut adjust. The benefits far outweigh the short-term bloat. So here's the bottom line. Canned beans are one of the rare canned foods that actually pull their weight in both safety and nutrition. Handled wisely, they're not a risk but a reliable ally for older adults. Because if beans prove that not all cans are bad, just wait until you see the pantry staple. That's not only safe, it's packed with antioxidants. Next up, canned tomatoes. After so many warnings about dangerous canned foods, it's refreshing to find one that can actually work in your favor. Canned tomatoes are one of the safest and most beneficial pantry staples you can buy if you choose wisely. Let's start with safety. Tomatoes are what scientists call a high-acid food. That natural acidity, often boosted with citric acid, keeps their pH below 4.6 in an environment too hostile for Clostridium botulinum. That means botulism, the invisible and deadly risk of many other canned foods, can't survive here. Pair that with the industrial retort process, where cans are heated above 240 degrees, and you have a product designed to lock out one of the deadliest toxins known to man. So let me ask, do you feel safer knowing that not all cans carry the same hidden danger? Now, the nutrition story gets even better. Processing tomatoes actually makes one of their best nutrients, lycopene, more available to your body. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant linked to heart health and protection against certain cancers. In fact, studies show you absorb more usable lycopene from canned tomato sauce or paste than from raw slices. Add a drizzle of olive oil, and your absorption rate spikes even higher. Who would have thought canned tomatoes could outshine fresh ones in this way? Of course, sodium can still be a catch. Some brands pack their tomatoes with salt, pushing the numbers higher than your heart would like. But the solution is simple. Choose no salt added varieties. The labels low sodium and very low sodium aren't just marketing fluff, they're legally defined. Low means 140 milligrams or less per serving. Very low means 35 milligrams or less. So the next time you shop, will you check the nutrition box or just trust the front label? And then there's potassium. Tomatoes are naturally rich in it, which is usually a good thing for heart health. But for seniors on kidney medication or potassium-sparing drugs, too much can become a hidden risk. Some low-sodium versions sneak in potassium chloride, listed as potassium salt. If that's a concern, stick to plain tomato products without add-ins. Now about the can itself. Most tomato cans today are labeled BPA-free or BPA-NI. That's because acidic tomatoes can pull BPA out of linings faster than other foods. Europe has already banned BPA from food packaging, while the FDA hasn't caught up. Still, storing cans in a cool pantry, not a hot garage, helps reduce any leaching. And if you want to skip metal entirely, you can find tomatoes in cartons or glass jars. So here's the truth. Canned tomatoes aren't just safe. They're nutritious, convenient, and even superior to fresh in some ways. They deliver antioxidants, flavor, and peace of mind as long as you pick wisely. So let me ask you, do you already keep canned tomatoes in your pantry, or is it time to add them to your shopping list? If you use them often, type tomatoes in the comments. Because unlike so many cans that hide dangers, canned tomatoes stand out as a safe, senior-friendly staple worth keeping on your shelf. We've taken a deep look at 9 different cans, 7 that quietly put your health at risk, and 2 that can actually support your body as you age. The truth is, not all canned foods are created equal. Some, like Vienna sausages, chili, or canned pasta, are loaded with sodium chemicals and hidden traps that work against your heart, kidneys, and overall well-being. But others, like beans and tomatoes, can be valuable allies when chosen and prepared wisely. The bigger message here is simple: awareness is power. Every time you reach for a can, you're making a choice that can either protect your health or slowly chip away at it. By learning the risks and the safe alternatives, you give yourself the power to stay strong, independent, and vibrant after 65. And remember, it's not about fear, it's about wisdom. It's about knowing what to avoid and what to embrace. A few small adjustments in your pantry can lead to big changes in your health, energy, and peace of mind. So let me ask, which canned food surprised you the most today? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next eye-opening guide for seniors. Together, we can build a community where knowledge, health, and longevity go hand in hand. Because in the end, your pantry shouldn't be a place of hidden danger. It should be a place of nourishment, strength, and life.